how we up level with our relationship. So this could be a good one.
Yeah, and it comes from within, right? It's you can't rely on other people to make you happy. It all comes within, and understanding yourself and what it is you enjoy and what drives you. Oh God, I need to already put the brakes on.
I think the conversation happened because there was a question that was posted in one of our own rooms, right? And someone was like, "Are you happy?" And then, "Does money make you happy?" And that's what created this room title. So, that really got me thinking. And initially when I was completely broke, I thought, okay, money is going to lead to happiness. And then I also at one point thought, everyone that's rich is probably unhappy. And there's a stigma that's around this, right? Anyone that you see rich, they're either divorced or they're unhappy. That's what everyone says anyway. So, I'm interested to hear the other side of this. And yeah, just really excited, really.
Awesome. Well, we got lots of folks in the room, so Samit or Vish, I'll let you guys take the active here, and I'm going to be bringing some other folks in and back channeling to get some of our other team in here, so you guys can kind of start this discussion as we continue to build out the stage and the speakers here.
Vishal, do you want to kick it off, seeing as you're the money guy and I'm the happiness guy?
Is that the way it is? I don't even know. God, you know what? I'm not even sure to start. There's loads of questions coming to mind, like whether
you know what it reminds me of, Fish. Remember Boiler Room? Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
Boiler Room? Yeah. Remember Ben Affleck said, "You think money can't make you happy? Look at the smile on my face." No, I don't think he had it down.
Ear to ear, baby.
Ear to ear. That's right. I don't think he had it down in that movie. I think he was focused on the money more than the happiness, and probably not the way I think. But I always think about that line when I think about this question, right?
I have that video in my car that plays often when I drive to work.
Honors in the dollar, kid.
Yes, sir.
I mean, David and I both know, we'd rather cry in our R8s and a V10 than anything else. But
yeah, baby.
Yes, look, I'm trying to think.
R8 fan right here.
There we go. Everyone needs a supercar. Cool. So let's think. So I mean, I'm really intrigued in terms of like, which one do people think is more important? Which one do people think comes first? Which one do people strive for more? Should we kick it around? Maybe say, which one comes first? Do you need money to then be happy, or do you need to be happy to then make money? So I'll just go for a couple of minutes. So after graduating, I mean, I grew up and money was a problem. So I wasn't happy because I would constantly be going out with friends, and if we went to a restaurant, I'd have to pretend that I'm not hungry just because I couldn't afford it. So for me, it was obviously a huge pain. I'm sure there's a lot of people here that grew up without money. It was a huge struggle. And so when I graduated, I then went, and my sole focus was to make money. So I took job after job. I took various consulting roles, and I was just chasing money. And let's bring back Sam back up. And so I was chasing money, and I was making good money. So I worked investment banking for a bit, and I made great money, but I still hit depression. So I wasn't actually happy. So for me, it's like, I personally think happiness needs to come first, but it needs to be something that comes from within rather than relying on somebody else to make you happy. It needs to be internal, not external. Because I chased the money and I still wasn't happy. I went into depression, and for 3 years, I was just kind of wiped. So that was my purpose. For me, I think you got to... And then you can then make even more money, because then when you have I think you perform better in your business, if it's a product business, I think you can think better. And if it's service, well, let's face it. Do you want to buy off somebody that's grumpy and miserable as a service? Do you want them to come consult or coach you if someone's really grumpy? Or would you rather someone that's actually quite content and quite happy? But personally, when people smile, you naturally smile back, and there's a reason for it. So that's my opinion. I think the happiness has got to come first, and then money. I don't know. What does everyone else think? I mean, this could be spun around, right? Because you may just, it could just be spun around so many times. Go on, David.
I'm just waiting because I'm gonna hog the mic if I.
I know.
I know. We gotta get our words in before Jesse.
Look, I'm cutting myself off as well, because Do you know what? Everything's got to be a freaking balance. It's just got to be a balance, because if you don't have money, you're not going to be happy because you can't afford anything. If you are really happy, wait, what did I just say? If you have no money, then yeah, happiness will be a struggle. You can be happy, but then can you be happy without money?
Yeah. So let me just say that, because this poem that I memorized a long time ago is just always stuck in the back of my head. Right? It's money can buy a house, but not a home. Right? Money can buy a bed, but not sleep. Money can buy a clock, but not time. Money can buy a book, but not knowledge. Money can buy food, but not an appetite. And money can buy you friends, but not love. So to me, happiness, comes first before money.
I don't know. My purple bed is, I think it has bought my sleep.
David, I mean, the car's got to make you happy as well, right? Just say.
I mean, a few things. A couple of my watches.
A couple of my watches make me happy.
A couple of my pair of shoes that are hard to get make me happy. But at the end of the day, nothing really truly makes me happy unless I don't feel honored and secured. And so money's important. But for me, happiness is more of it's deeper than that. It's love, and it's friendship, camaraderie.
It's temporary. It's temporary happiness, isn't it? Money will give you temporary happiness.
Yeah. It's a difficult one, because I've met a lot of people that I've met a lot of people that are very, very rich but very, very sad. But I've also met people who are very, very rich but very, very happy. But like I say, I think it is sometimes a temporary happiness, because it's like, people buy things to make themselves happy, and they do things that are not natural, to be honest with you, to make themselves happy, to build those endorphins, and then they get a slump. So it's a difficult one, and it's I've been in both spectrums. I've been very rich, and I've been very broke. So it is a difficult one, but I think it comes a lot down to again, like I say, your belief system as well. Whether it's spiritual, whether it's religious, you got to have something that you can hold on to. And I think happiness is something that we all strive for. And I'll give you an example. When I used to live in London, I lived in a 15-bedroom mansion. I had $1 billion worth of cars. I used to go over to like Regent's Park, for example, and actually, I used to sit in the park, and I used to see people basically just working like a 9-to-5 job, but then they would just have like a bottle of wine, they'd have a piece of cheese and a French stick, and they would sit under a tree, and they would be so happy, right, compared to people like us that would be sitting in the VIP area or what have you, having our brunch or lunch or whatever, which cost us $50, and you would look at these people and you think, wow, it's they don't have any indication of having wanting to have mass amounts of money, but they are content and happy. So I think it really depends. It's also what you have experience-wise in your life, and what you're open to in terms of your background or society. So it's a difficult one, because a lot of people say it's a catch-22. Sometimes you do want things require sometimes money, but also there's the happiness element. But I think Vishal hit the nail on the head. Sometimes that happiness is very short-term, and if you can train your brain to be able to spike those endorphins to make you happy without having to go out and acquire material things, then that's one thing. But something I always say is I would rather acquire experiences than material possessions, because those experiences are something that I can always think about, and that every time I think or talk about that experience, that would really make me happy. So yeah, that's my viewpoints on it. It's Sahel Khan, joint venture expert.
So I want to just add to something you just go and Simon.
I'm just going to drop Sohail, Debbie, Joey, and Christian just for ordering, and then I'll bring you guys back up. Yeah, and then I'll
cool.
Go on, Bishop.
Yeah, go on. While you do that, I'm just going to touch on what Sohail said there about experiences. So I used to buy, for my family, I used to buy them gifts and presents and all materialistic things, right? And either a few weeks later or a few months later, it'd either broken, lost, or not even used. So then I think it was like 5 years ago, and also my dad's a penny asked to buy something for. The amount of times I bought a physical gift for him and I had to return it was insane. So then I just realized, actually, hold up, let me buy experiences. So I started buying him supercar experiences, helicopter lessons, flying lessons. You got to drive a tank. And I've done the same sort of thing. And it's you are actually creating those moments. So they're everlasting moments. It's not buying somebody an iPhone, which can then just break or then be replaced a year later. It's an experience that is going to be embedded in their memory forever. It's, you know, your emotions are linked to what it is you're experiencing. It's something you remember.
And I'll tell you why that's amazing, because as human beings, sometimes we love talking about ourselves. Sometimes we love talking about things that we've done and we've experienced. And if you have a conversation with someone who reminisces about an experience, you can see that emotion in their face. If that emotion was an amazing emotion that was, really a happy emotion, man, it just shows straight through their face. So, it's the same. Look, I used to be, when I was a lot younger, like I've always said this story, all I wanted to be was rich. And I would literally get up in the morning, open my window and just stare at my car collection, or just stand next to my car collection, because it would make me happy, right? It's like waking up in the morning for Christmas. I would come down, I would look forward to the day. But then, after a while, I realized that, there's other things that make me happy also, and that is experiences. So, I spent a lot of time going out and meeting people and building great relationships, speaking around the world. And those are things that I still have. They didn't cost me anything, to be honest with you. But when I have a conversation with people, or when I talk about it, it makes me so happy, because it's those experiences that I have had in my life. And I always say to people, if I died today or tomorrow, I'd have no regrets, because I've pretty much done everything that I've ever wanted to do in life, and I've met some amazing people. So I think, the money versus happiness concept, it really depends. It really depends on what stage you are at your life, because a lot of people, when they get, when they, especially on Instagram, for example, because that's what they think the norm is, and that's what they think they should strive for, depending on the people you hang around with, and the relationships you have with people. So this is my viewpoint anyway. So this is Sahel Khan, the joint venture expert.
And Sahel, we just spoke about experiences and then linking that with happiness, because you're creating good memories. And I was about to ask you a question, which was, do you think you can have those amazing experiences without money? But you just actually mentioned it, which is like going to the park. Simple things like that are experiences you can have that are free and that provide happiness. And yes, it's great if you're able to, I don't know, hire a private jet and take all your friends out so they remember it and all that experience. But like you said, it depends
Michelle,
on
you can't do that?
Well, I've lent Samit my plane, so right now.
I always say to people, right, that I live in the confines of my mind, okay, whereas I can create that sort of experience just by thinking about it. And it's like, it's something that I've been working on for a number of years, because after I lost everything back in 2008, I was in that position where I was reliant on that. And then I had to figure out a way that how could I control my emotions, and how can I control my happiness? And it does work, to a certain extent, that you have that ability to think back, even the smell of things. People, when we're kids or whatever, and you're older, you smell something that you've had that experience of, and it just brings that warmth to you, right? And it brings that happiness to you, and it's incredible. If we could recreate that response again and again and again, if there was some way, they talk about this limitless thing that you take this tablet and it increases your brain capacity, but if there was a way for all of us to control our thoughts and not be influenced by what everyone else thinks the meaning of happiness is, right? And have that ability to be, I love this topic, by the way, you can probably tell, have that ability to be able to create that response and that mechanism just by sitting in a chair, and closing your eyes and having that same feeling that you'd have of happiness. I think that would be pretty phenomenal, and that would solve so many issues around the world as well. So anyway, those are my crazy thoughts. This is the Health Joint expert.
So, did you see Elon Musk was talking about that? He was like, I think he was or something that you can implant into the mind, and it would remove all these negative thoughts. So I thought that was really interesting.
It's amazing, I've always had that ability to do something similar. As in, I always find a positive in every negative. And I've been in situations, I mean, you guys haven't heard anything about my past life, but I've been in like near death situations where I've had to really, and I think meditation's really helped me. You know, like I always say, I meditated since I was 5 years old, and having the ability to be able to control that. But yeah, I mean, if you had the ability to control those thoughts, but I think as a human, you need to have those sort of feelings, whether they're positive or negative. But then I think it all comes down to training that mindset, and it comes down to the journey and the experience of experiencing things and having the ability to be able to turn things around quickly just by having that mindset. But yeah, again, my crazy thoughts. This is Sahil Khan, the joint venture expert.
But so Hale, go ahead, Donnie.
Yeah,
no, I was just making sure that he knew that they're not crazy thoughts. I think they're super strong. So I just don't want that to get lost. But jump in.
Well, but it's also very rare. Like to have that sort of a mindset, most folks don't. And most folks don't realize that suffering is optional. There are two things that you can focus on: money versus happiness. It's the science of achievement, and that's replicatable skills that Joey and Jesse and Sohail and Mark and Debbie and Dahlia have all demonstrated because they've left successful clues. But the real art is the art of fulfillment. It's why someone can be sitting in the park and be happy as I am versus the other person is miserable in the same environment. And it was said very early on in this room, for me, one of the wealthiest people I know who could buy and sell many people on the stage and has a net worth that's very enviable is also one of the most miserable people that I know. Doesn't have a great relationship with his kids, doesn't have a great relationship with his spouse, and it's disappointing to see. And he just has this worldview that takes him to those places. And so really leaning into that art of fulfillment side, for me, has been a game changer. And so Hale touched on something that has been a cornerstone of my entire adult life now, which is meditation. Because what it does is it takes me out of the equation and it allows me that pause to reflect instead of just simply react. Because life can come at you pretty fast sometimes, and it's easy to just react. And then we go to that fear-based mind because our mind is actually wired to avoid danger and suffer versus hardwired to attain pleasure. And so if we've got this don't get eaten by the tiger mind that wants to keep us safe all the time, the normal place for it to go is to fear and worry and doubt. But if you work hard enough over time, you can actually rewire your brain and you can use it in a more efficient way to find the good in everything, even when life hands you really suboptimal circumstances, which I've certainly had my fair share of. It's just the worldview that I have that it will never keep me down. Like if I lost everything tomorrow, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, I have a very strong sense that I would be back in a very short amount of time because that's just my prevailing worldview. I'm determined and I'm wired to win.
Also, guys,
it's interesting.
Go, Dahlia.
No, I was just going to say, it's interesting because we're not touching on the most important thing, where it's you actually have to love yourself first before you can love anybody else, or before you can actually, like right down to your job, you have to really love yourself first. And I think that that's where people go wrong, and that's where meditation gives us a chance to be with self. Once you love yourself, then you can dedicate more of yourself towards your work, towards your family, towards any other part of your life. But really making sure that we love ourselves first, and people don't talk about that part enough. This is Dahlia.
Also,
100% Dahlia.
Yeah, also another thing, right? One negative thing can happen in the day that can knock you off. I mean, or one negative thought in the morning that can knock your whole day. What I tend to do is I focus on the micro positives. So for me, a micro positive would be the great cup of coffee I had this morning, right? That coffee that I have every day in the morning that is amazing, and it is the taste, it's the smell of that coffee. So, I focus on the micro positives. I have more micro positives in the day than I have one negative thing that happens, and it affects us. It affects all of us. If you see something or you hear something, it can affect your whole day. So what I tend to do is I tend to have more micro positives in the day that basically counter out that one negative thing that's happened in the day to knock me off my whole week. So definitely try that, because it definitely helps. This is the Hellcar and the Joint Venture Expert.
I like that. I just had a micro positive from learning what a micro positive was. So that was really cool.
That is something that I've done for a long time, because back then I was always like, when things happen and when you have that, I mean, I've been through trauma, man. I mean, a lot of people obviously don't know. I also, I only lose everything. I had a supercar accident. A supercar crash with actually a friend of mine a couple of years ago, and it left me with a lot of permanent damage. I'm blind in my left eye and I'm deaf in my left ear. But for me, it was like I could look at that and think, you know what, that's it. I'm doomed. I can never do anything and blah blah blah. But for me, one negative thing basically knocks you out for the whole day or the whole week or whatever. But having the micro positives in a day is absolutely amazing. Everything you can see in your day, count those micro positives, and they will always outweigh the negative, whatever that negative is in your day. So I hope that helps.
Hey, so I'd like to piggyback off that. I did an exercise one time where you had to write down 100 things that you're grateful for, right? And I started going through it, and then once you hit about like 30 different things, you start having to really think outside the box. And it comes down to like the weather, like you're talking about, it turns into micro things, but at the end of the day, you keep focusing on what's positive in your life. And I challenge any one of you guys to do that. Just 100 things that you're grateful for, and it'll start with your health, your kids, your job, your things like that. But as you go down the list, you're going to start finding a lot of micro things that you just didn't realize you were grateful for. And when you're done with that exercise, you're going to be like, wow, I have it good. Life is good. And that's one thing I do. And just to piggyback off of that, every single morning, part of my morning routine, I call it mind, body, soul. I meditate, I read, I journal. But one of the things I do when I'm writing down is I'm writing down everything I'm grateful for. You have to start your day with gratitude, because the thing is, if you don't remember what you're grateful for, there's a lot of things that will overcome you. And so that's one thing that's really helped me out. And then last but not least, my body. I work out physically every day. I have to, cardio and fitness, and I eat healthy too. So it's like everything has to do with creating happiness within your own self. It doesn't have to be material things. Obviously, sometimes money can help, because it can help fix some problems and help people in this world. But it just depends on what we do with that wealth. But at the end of the day, it's all about putting ourselves first, our mind, our body, and soul. And things will change drastically for you, your business, your relationships, and your family. And so that's just one thing I encourage you guys each to do, is write down what you're grateful for, because you'll realize there's things that you never even thought about. And life is good. We have it good, guys. So I'm Joey Hickson. I'm done speaking.
And Joey, just to piggyback on the back of that, I just wanted to pick up one thing that you said. Talk about what's going good in your life. So many people that you have conversations with, it's like, how are things going? How are things? And there's a lot of people complain about what's not going right in their life, but a lot of people talk about what's going right in their lives, and I'll give you a classic example. When you talk to people who have been in relationships, and some people mention, oh, what a waste, I was with this guy or I was with this girl for 5 years. It was a waste of 5 years. Really? No, what about the positives? Obviously you were with a person over a long period of time. Surely there must have been some good times in that relationship. So if you tend to focus on what was good in a relationship, or what was good, or what's going good right now in your life, it'll be easier for you to move forward, being more positive. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. So this is Sarah Khan, the Joint Venture Expert.
I'd love to tap in here. This is Sarah. So here's the thing. I definitely agree with what everyone's saying. I think we all know rich people who are miserable, and people who aren't, classified as rich who are really happy. But with that said, and I'm going to try not to repeat what I said last night, but the one thing I will say is that I think that in the midst of profound tragedy or grief or, true unhappiness, the truth is that sometimes you just want things to be a little bit easier. You want that micro positive. And the fact is that money helps with that. And not having money can make a tragedy feel backbreaking. You lose someone you love, and then on top of that, you have these extraordinary medical bills. And if you're able to pay them, that's a little bit of relief in your day. And if you're not, it's extremely stressful. We have a fund at a local children's hospital that helps parents who lose their babies pay for their burials. Because can you imagine if your child died and then you literally didn't have the money to bury them? Like, how profoundly, just awful that would be in that moment, that people don't have the money for that. Or, they don't have the money pre-COVID to have their family come in and meet them, their baby. So it's like, I just think that there's kind of a level of practicality in there, to be candid, that I think that when everyone has ups and downs in their lives, but I think that when things are relatively normal, you can kind of say, like, meditate, find gratitude, find peace, like all these healthy habits. But I think that when someone just completely has the wind knocked out of them in their life, at least what I've seen in my experience, is that if they themselves or someone around them has the money, that they can say, like, you know what, don't cook dinner tonight, just order in. Like, just even these little things can bring those micro positives, that sense of peace that, like, even if you're not happy, if it takes some time to learn how to be happy again, yes, that's going to be inner work. That's going to be loving yourself. That's going to be mindset. Having money, ease, like those everyday concerns, so you don't have that stress on top of whatever else you're coping through, is something that can make it a little bit easier. And sometimes all you want is for things to be a little bit easier. This is Sarah, and I'm done speaking.
So, Sarah, when I asked earlier which one do people think comes first, I've just had the realization that it needs to be money to a degree, to be able to provide your family with a roof over their heads, to feed them, to provide them with the basics in life. If a tragedy comes up, to be able to afford a funeral or something like that, to support the people you love. So I think money needs to be, in my opinion, I think money would be the priority to get to a state where you can live a comfortable life and provide for your family. I don't think, go Jesse.
Yeah, I'd love to chime in here off the back of that. Unless you had another thought. Did you want to finish your thought there?
No, I was going to say that go for it.
No one likes a balanced argument. You're meant to just stick to one side.
I'm a reasonable guy, and I like to do the analysis.
The
I don't know, Sammy.
Happiness. You can only say money or happiness.
No, this isn't a John Lee.
So I initially asked, which one do you prioritize or think comes first? So I've answered that, or which comes first. But overall in life, I don't think you can pick. I think it, again, comes down to what Sohail said. It depends on what
I would go with happiness, and I'll tell you why. My belief system, right, is that this world is temporary. So we go to a destination where we basically live forever, right? So my belief system has always been this world is temporary. So whether you succeed or fail on this life doesn't matter. But what difference you make in this life and what difference you leave behind is the big thing. So a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people don't realize that. And I think you have to get your spiritual or your belief system in check first, because we vibrate at a certain level. We are energy based, so you give out you give out what you get back. So for me, it's hands down. I still have money, but I've seen what money can do. Money can be a force for good, don't get me wrong, but I would choose happiness every single time, because happiness does so much for your body. Happiness does so much for your mind. Happiness allows you to be in that constant state where you are pretty much invincible. If you wake up happy every day, there are so many amazing things that you can do with that. But also there's things you can do with money. But I think happiness, being in the state of happiness, I think is pretty much an incredible thing. So for me, I would choose happiness every single day. This is the Hill Khan, the Joint Venture Expert. I'm going to get in on this. I'm going to go and grab a cup of tea. I'll see you guys soon.
I got to get in on this. That was probably the most deepest thing I've ever heard Sohail say, other than I am the joint venture expert, right?
I got to get in on this, though. Samit and Vish.
And then,
I got to get in on this. You guys are...
As well. Yeah, go ahead, Debbie. You go first, and I'll go.
So what I was going to say is, and this might be kind of piggybacking on Sohail, but I think you got to get the order right on purpose, and here's why. If you start with money to seek happiness, money will cost you your happiness. If you have happiness first, money seems to follow, and you get to hang on to your happiness. I think if you make happiness dependent on money, it's a negative. It costs you. If your happiness comes first and creates money, then you get to keep both. I'm Debbie in the Blue Bubble. Thanks.
Thanks, Deb. That was beautiful. I just love this topic, and I mean, I've spent most of my adult life thinking about this topic. So, thanks for creating the room, guys. For me, it's really interesting to hear Sohail, you talking about this. I jive with a lot of what you're saying, man, and I've been through a lot of crazy experiences too. And most of you, I think, know by now that I've lost my brother to suicide. A year and a half ago. Before that, a couple years before that, lost my father to cancer. And so, my brother watched my dad die of cancer really, really tragically, and then he didn't make it. I was suicidal as well. And so when you get to these levels of realizing the finality of this temporary place that we're in, as you call it, Sohail, which I love that, everything starts to get clear, and you think differently about things like money. And money is literally just a creation of man, or I should say of people, that we use to trade things and to get things, and that's all it is. And so once you realize that's what the word money is, that's what dollars and cents are, then you start to realize it's not everything. There's lots of different types of currency. Money is one kind of currency. And then you can start to realize, I always say we try to be successful so we can be happy instead of trying to be happy so we can be successful. And you can kind of replace money and success interchangeably with the way we use that word in today's modern society. And that's where it starts to get really confusing. And so Hale, you're talking about things at a very high level here. And that's the way I like to think about money and happiness. And that's why I put happiness first as well. But I also know that money matters in this world, in this temporary world, right? And that's where I don't think you can have a black and white answer, and that's why I think time is such an important thing to think about here. And I always try to think about time in context of whatever the topic of conversation is, in this case, money versus happiness, right? And if you think about time, we're all here for a finite amount of time. We're all going to die, period. So if you think about that, then what do you want to chase? Do you want to chase the money, or do you want to chase the happiness? Do you want to be happy today? Well, I hope you want to be happy today, because you might not be here tomorrow, right? And then you realize the money piece isn't as important. Now, if someone's in your family's dying and you want to pay for the funeral, of course you want to have the money for that. And that's where I think people need to realize that freedom is probably the most important thing. I fight for freedom. That allows me to be happy. And then that happiness allows me to get money. And I'll tell you, I've had lots of money and I've had no money. And I think everybody here on the stage, where you look at us and look at our bios, you're like, oh my gosh. And so he was talking about his cars and yeah, we've all had money, but you also, if you were listening carefully, heard that Sohail didn't have any money at one point, and Vishal couldn't pay for his dinner with friends. And I've been in those situations. And in fact, right now, I'm in a very tight cash situation. But some people know the stuff I'm working on right now, Matt, Vishal, some of you guys, and there's different kinds of currency. And I'll tell you, I've learned money comes and goes. And happiness does too if you don't pay attention to it. So pay attention to the happiness first. That's my advice.
Here's the thing that's going to blow your mind, right? What came first, right? Happiness or money? Happiness has always been there from the beginning. Money was something that's been created.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
That's something that's really going to blow your mind. If you really look into it deep, and what money is as a currency and what it really represents and why it was created, and then you look back and you think, you know what, happiness came way before money. So it's amazing to think that. And then you also got to just understand is what's going to happen, and like I said, again, that comes to your belief system. And my belief system is this world is temporary. So whatever happens doesn't really matter. What happens is what you leave behind and what impact and difference you make in this life. So that's always been my thought. So I hope that helps.
So, Hill, I have a question for you. This is Sarah. I know you're saying money comes and goes. Have you experienced, do you think happiness comes and goes, or do you think that happiness can be permanent?
I think happiness is always there. It's permanent, right? It's always embedded in ourselves. But the problem is our brain has been trained in such a way that the thoughts that we have are always created on a regular basis compared to what you watch, compared to what you see, compared to who you talk to, right? Now, if you had someone who was shut away from all that and all they experienced was happiness and they had those thoughts and those memories, That's the problem. It's what we become aware to now, and even as kids, I look at my kids and I think, you know what, I want to. You see how they're happy all the time, 24/7, and when they're not happy, that's because something happens, or they start to build some sort of belief system, or they watch something, or they see something, and they think that's the norm. But most of the times they're very happy. They're always smiling. They're always laughing consistently. Yeah, no matter what happens, even when they don't understand what's happening, they're always happy. So that's really interesting when you look at that, because they haven't had impact that we have to so many things that we watch, that we see, that impacts our thoughts and impacts our mind. Because like you say, you're only using a small capacity of your brain, to be honest with you. And if you can tap into to more of the element that brings you that happiness consistently, then I believe you can. And I believe it's always there within us, but it's just brought out by the thoughts and the memories that we have, that brings it out. But if you can control that consistently, then I think that would be pretty amazing.
I love that, and I'd love to. Thank you. So I would love to jump on that too, Sarah. I think too, for me, the evidence comes pretty easily. I know a lot of people who don't have much money, and they are in generally happy. And I know people who have a lot of money who are generally unhappy. Therefore, a dependency model isn't real. It's how it's sorted out, like Sohail was just saying, and kind of the order of things, and kind of tapping into that. I do think it's always available. I mean, it's the reason, Sarah, you and I could go to a live music event or something, and one of us could have a great time and the other could have a miserable time. How is that possible? We're at the exact same event, right? So much of it depends on the lens with which you experience, the lens with which you perceive, the lens with which you listen, and then the how you frame it. And I have been to too many places around the world where our standard for happiness, there's no way, if applied, those folks that I've been with should be quote unquote happy based on some people's definition. And that's when it gets real clear that happiness is an inside job and it's all relative to one's experience. And so I'm always trying to create it wherever I can. That's why I tend to be a glass half full and why my bubble is blue. Thanks for letting me share. I'm Debbie.
Anyone else feel like happiness is a state? Obviously, happiness is within us, and we have that. Money's something more, that's more tangible. I do feel like happiness is a lot more important. Once you're happy, you can go and do anything and obtain anything you need to, in my humble opinion.
I think something important to say here is happiness versus euphoria, right? Because what we're talking about is this baseline happiness, which you might say is like being at peace, or feeling that you are enough or you have enough, right? And I think that's one of the elements here that people confuse with happiness, right? Like you can't always feel, a dopamine hit, right? But you can be at peace. And I think that's partly how we're using the word happiness here. Debbie, Sohail, maybe you guys could back me up on that.
I was going to say, it sounds like, Jesse, contentment, right? Being content and still being able to have ambition. This is something I admire in the people that I work with, my clients. The magic happens, and I love what you're pointing to here, Jesse. I think the magic happens when you can be happy and content where you are while being absolutely willing to pursue your next best level. It is not a judgment on your current state as much as your current state reflects the fact that you're open to be willing to pursue a better version and next level. And I think striking that balance between being content and being and still being willing to grow and advance yourself in all areas, not just money, but in all areas is where the magic happens. And I think it comes from experience, pain, trauma, like all the things most of the people here, that's one thing. If we did a poll at ClubHouse, I bet you that nobody gets out, without some scars and some dings. And I think you can't know happiness without knowing sadness, and you can't know light without knowing dark. And there is no one-sided man. And so we I find myself to be grateful for the general overall feeling of happiness or contentment that I experience so much more often than the other. And that's what generates my gratitude. Thanks for letting me share. I'm Debbie.
I think also flipping it on its head, right? A lot of people say, "What's your ambition?" Why don't we use the word "What's your mission"? Because everyone's ambitious, they have goals, and when they think about ambition, it's about getting rich, being, becoming this, becoming that. But I think using the word mission a lot of us don't really have, that ingrained with us. It's all about ambition, goals, and becoming successful, and what have you. But what about the mission? Should it be rather like, what's your mission rather than what's your ambition? But again, that's my thoughts.
I just wanted to say, Victoria.
Wait,
one second. Yeah, so just say your name first. I know everyone's very passionate about this.
We will go around to everybody.
Yeah,
I'll go after Jay. It's Victoria.
Yeah, so Jay, then Victoria,
I'll go after Victoria, please.
And then
Linda will go after.
And then Linda. All right,
Thank
cool. I can't remember any more names, so therefore.
Appreciate it. I first want to just thank you guys for this room. I've been studying the law of attraction, and I found that once you master your emotions, then you can really start dealing with the law of attraction. Because what I've seen is that I've always been able to attract money, but when my emotions are not intact, when I'm not happy, I blow money. When I'm happy and I'm attracting money, I'm actually able to use money for the vehicle in which it is. So, I mean, that's kind of my thing on it is that. And then also, I end up finding out that everything around me is better when I find that sense of happiness. I become grateful and thankful for the things that I already have, which then pulls in even more, and it pulls it in even faster. My name's Jeremiah. Thank you.
Hey, this is Victoria. And Jay, I agree with you. I think it takes a lot of self-awareness to do that type of work and to also align with that. And I agree with what was said earlier with Debbie about, in order for you to appreciate the sweet, you have to experience the sour, right? And what happens is people, they align their happiness or define their happiness by what they have, right? By what they have, what they can touch, instead of aligning it to what is happening internally within them, right? Because especially in America, we're preconditioned to believe that you need to have more, and more is always good, right? More equals abundance. If you don't have more, you're slacking, right? If you're not striving for more, if you don't have 8 zeros in your bank account, you're lazy. Like, what are you really doing? And people are attaching their happiness to material things or to money, right? And I think it's actually really sad when we are programmed in this way and don't get to a place where we actually sit with ourselves and really look internally and ask ourselves, like, what really makes us happy? A lot of people don't even know. I ask my clients all the time, like, what makes you happy? What do you want? And they can't answer those two questions, right? And it's because they haven't sat with themselves and really thought critically about what is it that makes me happy that isn't attached to material things. Because so many times, more often than not, happiness is attached to material things. And so I just encourage everybody to really sit with yourself, especially now in this moment of like high emotional distress and people really thinking about how they're going to reinvent themselves and pivoting and what really matters in life. Now's the time to ask yourself those difficult questions, because once you are able to answer those questions, that is when you will start experience real freedom. And that is when success, however you define it, will come find you, because now you're at solace. Now you have clarity, right? Aligned to what drives you, which in turn will equate to your happiness. This is Victoria Nandan speaking.
Victoria, I just want to add on that, because you mentioned, you asked the question, what is happiness? And I think there's another question that people need to answer, and I know it's slightly off topic, is around success. I ran a room on this a while ago, which is what is it to you? Is it monetary? Is success to you about money? Is it about the experiences that you have? Is it about family? For some people, literally success could be having a family. Is it physical? Is it something you want to get into shape, and that's what you count as success? So there's all these different types of success and happiness, and it's about really asking yourself, really within, and thinking about it. Because everybody wants to be successful. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants all these things. But what does it actually mean? And what does it actually mean to you? Because it can be different. I don't think there's no right or wrong answer here. It can be different for everybody. It's about really understanding for yourself. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out for myself, I'll have to admit. Especially with social media, I think it just really throws people off on what happiness is. Happiness, getting free holidays and getting to stay in the Maldives in a villa on the ocean. Is that what true happiness is? Is it just getting that, or is there something more to it? So yeah, I just really wanted to add to that. Is really just asking yourself, what do these words mean to you?
I'd love to add into that. Did you ask somebody that question, or are you asking?
No. Let's.
So I think it's Sarah and then Linda.
Yeah. Let's go to Sarah and Linda, and then we can circle back.
Can I go after Linda, please?
Who was that?
Ahmud.
Sure. Okay.
Hi, this is Sarah. So here's the thing. I mean, I definitely think that happiness is more important. I think happiness is more valuable. I think happiness is more, like Sohail was saying, I think, being focused on your mission, I think all of those things are really the goal. With that said, I mean, I've kind of been talking around it, but to Debbie's point, after our son died, I was not happy for probably 2 years, and it just took time. But, the rent was still due. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of when I look at these things like money versus happiness, I think also it's not always accessible. And I think that people can try and earnest. I think they can get the help they need. I think they can do the inner work. But I think sometimes, sometimes I don't think happiness is accessible, but the capitalistic society that we live in, you actually still need to keep going, right? You still need to keep, paying your bills and your obligations and just trying to kind of find your way back to happiness somewhere along the way. And so that's why when it's kind of like money versus happiness, I think there's a difference also between, which one is more significant, which one is more valuable versus which one do you just need to survive. And I also think are we talking about money in the sense of I think sometimes people go straight to materialism. They think oh, are you saying that, as we were saying earlier, fancy dinners and fancy clothes and private jets will make you happy versus to what extent does the presence or absence of money and the ease that brings to your life, ease your ability to find the time and space for that inner work and to grow your own happiness and everything like that. So I think it's interconnected is the honest point of it. And I think actually heard someone once say it's when money is a problem that it becomes the subject of all of your thoughts and conversations. And so that's another thing that's interesting to me is that I almost think when that's taken care of, people have the ability to explore their happiness, their goals, their ambitions. Whereas if it's immediate, how are you going to put food on your table? I don't really know how you can take the time to think about other things. This is Sarah and I'm done speaking.
So Linda was up next. Linda,
yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I'll try to keep it short, but I wanted to touch on something Jesse said about freedom. I made a really powerful connection last night. I grew up in America, but my family's from Cambodia. And there's a lot of trauma in Southeast Asia, especially around the idea of sex trafficking. And I've always wanted to do something about it. I didn't know what I could do. And I wasn't sure why. But for me, my mom is also a stay-at-home mom, and she had a really controlling financial situation. Her husband was really financially controlling. And I left my corporate job last year, and I was basically in golden handcuffs because I was not happy. So I'm getting kind of teared up talking about all of this because I've never really talked about it in front of anyone. But all of that is connected to freedom. Every single one in those three situations just wants to be free. And for me, it was not more money. It was security, but to get out of something I wasn't happy in. So...
Can I respond to that real quick, Michelle?
Yeah.
If that's okay, I know we have other people in line. I'll keep it.
Yeah, no,
just because Linda, you just you responded back saying what I said, so I'm just going to give you a little more insight because there's a reason behind why I put freedom first too. And my first business I was in, I felt trapped as well, and the company was doing well, so I thought I had to stay. And we're making millions of dollars, and I would cry myself to sleep, and I won't go into all the details, but I was just miserable, and I eventually ended up leaving that company and becoming a writer and doing lots of other things. And I'll tell you, money was very tight. I was driving around Ubers and Lyfts. And now, I'll tell you where I'm at now is I'm at a friend's place and I'm hanging out with my daughter and my wife and my friend. And I'm here on ClubHouse talking to all you beautiful people. And I'm free. And there's all kinds of cool things I'm working on, and the money comes and goes. And you're right, sometimes you have those golden handcuffs, and I'm glad you brought that up because not everybody's in that situation. It's kind of a unique situation, but I'm sure people in the audience know what that feels like. And that's kind of like, again, just reiterating the point here, right? And Sarah, I'll go back to you as well because you're making a good point here too. It's all shades of gray. Like, yes, you need some money, but what else do you need for happiness, right? And so Sarah, is giving us the pragmatic, sort of explanation here that you have to get that baseline, but don't sacrifice your freedom, please, everybody. Do not do that. And in this world, it's a little tricky because there's a lot of propaganda out there that says we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to go to school, we have to get a job. And, I don't know about you guys, but I'm still in debt with my college money that I owe them. And it's like, where does it stop, So, Linda, just keep it going. I'm glad you got out of it, and I know how that feels. And as I said before, I was suicidal, so it was real. It was deep.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
I
and
appreciate
I just want
the
people to know it's real stuff. So, but the silver lining here is the stuff Sohail's talking about: the little wins, the coffees, the fact that you can choose. You can actually choose, and that's it. I'll stop there. But the money will come.
And Jesse, I wanted to add to that actually because healing is something I've been working on tremendously. So it's not only freedom for me that I've kind of learned. I became an entrepreneur. I have a small brand, but throughout this journey, because I've had the time to delegate to both, I've really focused on my healing journey and going back to inner child work and trauma that I didn't know I had. Seriously, it's been amazing. So over this last year and a half, healing has been so powerful for me, being, practicing gratitude, but just really going back and doing that deep work is something I never knew I needed until I did it. And yeah, it's amazing. But now, so here's a question that I wanted to ask everyone. I am feeling on top of the world. I feel so happy, so full of joy. I feel free. I'm so happy in my relationship and everything, but I feel guilt because there are a lot of people that are struggling and that have been struggling for, obviously this last year. And I get this, like, should I share this? Should I not? I don't want anyone to feel bad. So how do you go about, feeling joy and trying to share that with the world, but not hurting somebody else, if that makes sense?
Hey, Linda, this is Debbie of the Blue Bubble. I appreciate that question, and it shows the generosity of spirit that you carry and, the true nature of the way that you see the world, which is, you live beyond yourself, and I appreciate that. But it's a great question because it's a bit of a trap, because if we attempt to take responsibility for feelings outside of ourselves, we are gone, and everybody else's agenda will become our agenda, and there's really no way to control, how another person feels. So I think that the way that it worked for me was I had to flip the script and start living out loud, this joy and happiness that you've worked your way toward as an example of what's possible for other people. So instead of feeling guilt about finding your way to your current state of being, it's about sharing how you got there and showing that it's possible no matter what. And that's the best way to offer other people the opportunity to find their way there too, is by seeing your example and you not hiding your light. Because the truth is, if somebody else is able to look at what you've been through and look at where you've gotten to, they think maybe I can do it too. But if you give that away or you hide it, then it's implied for those folks that, I guess I'm not going to be able to share my joy and happiness because it might make somebody else feel bad about their situation. You just can't worry about that. Your job is to be the lighthouse that you are and share that so that other people see that it's possible. I'm Debbie in the Blue Bubble. Thanks for letting me share.
This is to help climb the drug metrics, but it comes again to what I was talking about positivity and negativity and micro positives. You will inspire more people than you will hurt than sharing your joy, right? So understand that, number one. Also, when it really comes to it, sharing your joy is not really going to hurt anyone, to be honest with you. There is no really hurt involved in sharing joy. And like Debbie was saying, you need to be able to do that. We need more joy in the world. We need much more joy in the world. And, like I say, you will inspire more people positively than you will negative. So I think that's just a sort of a belief system in yourself in terms of how you think or what you think will happen. But I wouldn't worry about it. Like I say again, we're all made up of energy, and we all need a positive energy as much as we can get. It's like a flower. A flower to grow and bloom needs the sun. We need as much joy in our lives to be able to grow and to be able to live and breathe, to be honest with you. So I think just carry on, like Debbie said, share your light with the world, because there are a lot of dark places in the world that need lighting up. So I think you're doing a great thing. This is Sahel Khan, the Joint Venture Expert.
Thank you so much, you guys. That's super helpful. And I just wanted to say that I think it's, partly the Asian American experience, to be honest, and just the way that I was taught not to show off, not to be too loud. So it's definitely a journey and a learning experience, but thank you for the support.
This is no need to add to
Linda,
this.
Can we, I think we need to, Linda, does that help? We've had
yes.
A lot of the moderators come through. I really hope that helps. I just want to do a quick room reset. I know Mahmood's been waiting patiently and a few others on stage, so I'm just really keen to keep the conversation going. Right, so we're here under the club product launch blueprint. We are here to talk about money versus happiness. We've been talking about which one comes first, which is more important, and we're going to continue kicking this around. And if you would like a copy of Think and Grow Rich, then DM Samit, so in the blue background on the top right. If you send him a message on IG saying join, he will send you a free copy of Think and Grow Rich, and also you'll be added to our invite list. So whenever we run celebrity interviews, you'll then be one of the first to get an invite. And let's continue on this conversation. So we are talking money versus happiness. And Mahmood, what are your thoughts on the topic, and which one do you think comes first?
Before we go to Mahmood, if I can say, please, if everyone, we have over close to 400 people in this room, if everyone can at least invite one person into this room that you think will help and inspire them, let's give them hope. As my good friend Jen always says, hope means help one person every day. So let's do that for everyone, and let's invite at least one person, please, into the room if you can do that. Thank you very much. Mahmood, over to you.
Thank you, Vichal. Hi, everyone. Thank you for this amazing topic. I can tell you my choice will start by happiness first. And really, 12 years back, before I started exploring the topic of emotional intelligence, I didn't really make a distinction between happiness and money. I collapsed both of them. So I want to share a couple of notes that I took from the conversation. So there's a nice video on YouTube for a person called Alan Watt. The topic is what if money was not an object, and it's a 4 minutes video and very, very powerful, but the gist of it is he talks about how we inherit the quest for money generations after generation, and we end up not being happy despite having the money. The second thing is, when I started exploring the world of emotional intelligence, I discovered that majority of us as human, we live a model called the do have be model, which is to do something like go get some money, to have something which is go buy a car, and then thinking that we're going to be happy when we buy the car. But what happens when you drive off the parking lot of the dealership, somebody cuts you off, and you are upset and cursing and swearing, for example, so your happiness got out of the window. And it was a point to explore another model that says it's the be, do, have, and we're called human beings, not human doings or human havings. So we start by being happy and then do what makes us continue that happiness, and whatever we have, supposedly you're still happy because you started with happiness, right? And so that was another thing. The third thing is happiness versus peace, and Jesse touched on this one. I come from a Islamic faith. I'm a Muslim, and I always wondered why did God instruct us to pray for people in the greeting and say peace be upon you, not happiness be upon you, right? So I started looking into my life and see, do I really desire happiness that could be attached to something, or do I desire to the being peaceful and content, as somebody also shared that. So I think it's more for me on the peacefulness side, the contentment side, and we all know that as human beings and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, your peace is really threatened if you are threatened in your food or drink or shelter. Okay, so and also want to share that yes, we could be happy in a lot of times, and happiness could go out of the window occasionally or many times. But are we pursuing to be perfect human beings that we have to be happy all the time, or are we pursuing just to be responsible with our life? And if happiness is out the window, that we restore this happiness as soon as possible and go back to being happy. That's what I wanted to share, and thank you so much.
This is Cassidy. I just want to thank you. That was such a powerful share, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's continue on. Who wanted to chime in next?
It's Miriana. Am I okay to?
Yeah, sure, Miriana, please do.
So, absolutely amazing room. I actually followed Sohail from his previous room, and love the topic. And yeah, resonates. Everything that you guys said resonates deeply. Nassim and Linda, yeah, been there, done that.
It's a bit noisy where you are. Can't really hear you.
Right, okay, I'll try.
Okay, can hear you now.
Yeah. So I just want to say I'm holding in my hand a book called Selfie, How the West Became Self-Obsessed, which I really recommend everyone to read. It's absolutely amazing explanation about differences in cultures and what makes one culture happy and what makes other culture happy, and difference between West and East cultures. So yeah, highly recommend that. One thing I wanted to share with Linda, I been through the similar journey, and one thing that helped me to pull out through my burnout, being in corporate roles in the last 12 years before I started my own business. I traveled literally every week. I would be at the beginning of the week in Far East, the end of the week I would be in North America or South America or Europe, and changing all the time, time differences, and waking up at 2:00 in the morning to catch the first flight, and then landing on the other side, and running on my adrenaline, and obviously body just couldn't cope much. On the other side, there was a personal element, which is having the not achieving actually to become mother. That also was another level of unhappiness. So, and then I was just thinking, what do I have having all this money, all this lavish lifestyle, and actually not achieving what I want? But also being from entrepreneurial family is something that was always kind of keeping me on my toes to start my own business. And one thing that helped me to make that decision to step out from something that really doesn't help me and makes me unhappy, besides all this money and everything else that they had, was actually going on a trip when I met absolutely amazing woman who's head of the charity called Global Angels Foundation. She's mother of two famous musicians, Molly Bedingfield. And she invited me to come with her to go and visit deprived families in Kenya, where female or rather women are heads of the families because male either left for other women or just went for a work which is far away, 5-6 hours drive. And they live on 1 meal in 2 days, if they're lucky, 1 meal a day. And they have to take care of their kids and feed them once in 2 days. They have to walk 14 miles to fetch the nearest water, which is obviously fetched from dirty water holes. And I went there in day when I actually was very suicidal, and people will know in this group what I'm talking about when you feel that. And I met Molly that day, and she told me that she's going to Kenya on Friday. So next Wednesday, I was already in Kenya with her, because that was the only thing that I felt I could do, is to give and help others and inspire others, and also learn from them what actually makes them smile every day when they have only 1 meal in 2 days. What is it? And I asked them, and the father of, there was one father in that community with 2 children. His wife passed away. And I asked him, so what makes you happy every day? You have that smile and you sleep on bare ground, without blanket to put underneath. And he said, well, if I lose that smile, that's the only hope for my children. So I cannot lose that. And that shook me to my core. And I thought, you know what? There is something so rotten in the West that we have that is just unbelievable. So, we have everything and they have nothing. They are smiling, we are miserable. So something is really bad. And then that actually helped me to make my decision to start my own business and say, okay, I am dropping everything, investing everything I have, and I will survive. I know I've seen the worst, and I know that I will survive. So, I have my skills, I have my experience, I have my network, I have my health, and I have a roof above my head. And that's enough already. That's already plenty to help me to pursue my dream and to start something that will help many others. And also just, I heard actually in this group when Sohail said about meditation and if we had a device where we can kind of sit down and teleport ourselves in some different place and help us to disconnect from this world and help us to recuperate and just let's say reset our mindset and continue doing what we are doing with much more power. I actually if you check my bio, Hunger Global, you will see that's exactly what we are making. Because of my own struggle and suffering, being from another side, I just wanted to say I want to help others. And that's where actually idea came from for Hunger. So thank you, I'm done speaking.
Hey, this is King. So I love the topic. I think what we find is that, money definitely can't buy happiness, but it can help you get out of your situation. So it's kind of subjective based on what your core values are, what are your life experiences. Being a relationship coach, you understand that a lot of it is based in personal development. What traumas you've been through in your life, and how does that drive you? Does that make you want more? And I think more so than anything, being in a capitalist society, it kind of promotes trauma, if you will, because what we learn is, some of the wealthiest people in the world are driven based off their traumas, based off, people in their life, certain experiences, to where they never felt good enough, whether they were, a nerd growing up or, experienced bullying, whether that be, from an ex, a parent or what have you. And you're driven to, prove them wrong. You're driven, to get that next dollar. And even when, you don't think about that trauma as much, it still carries a certain level of narcissism that comes with that. And, we all to a certain degree, have a bit of narcissism when you talk about that drive for money. But what we learn when we truly have the self-development is that, it's more important to be, resourceful versus having, a ton of resources. What's your ability to serve others? And we learned that when you truly, truly look to serve others, that's when you find happiness. I know a lot of people that have, businesses on automation, and, the idea to have a, passive income and businesses on automation is so that you can experience that happiness with your family, enjoy your resources with your family. And that's the idea of, trying to be, resourceful, in all of that. Yeah, it still doesn't happen. So it definitely boils down to a lot of our, traumas, learning that, until we truly have that personal development, understand what our core values are in life, tailoring that towards, hey, I don't need as much money. I just need to be financially stable. I need to have, a few investments here and there. But the ultimate goal is most certainly to be happy. But you'll never get that until you truly, learn to serve others. My name is King, and I'm done speaking.
Hi, it's Susanna here. I was wondering if I could jump in for a bit, if I can.
Yep, go for it. And then I saw Jeff unmute, and we can go to him after.
Cool. Thanks, guys. First of all, I love this conversation. I love the topic. And for me personally, I would say that obviously it would be nicer to, cry a breakup, etc. in Aston Martin, instead of like a London double decker. But I think coming back to what you guys said earlier, that all of those things, like whenever you buy something, it's just temporary. And obviously I'm not a millionaire myself, so I wouldn't be able to continue buying a lot of stuff. But I think in the end, it's just like they can make you happy for a while, but then you always need to buy more of those things. And I would assume that at some point there comes a moment when sort of nothing is enough. And I feel like well, I remember yesterday, it wasn't necessarily this room, but some other room, and there was a lady who said that if someone is initially unhappy about something, it doesn't matter what they do, like whether they keep on buying things, like whether they keep on buying supercars or whatever, it still wouldn't change it. And then again, if someone is initially like a happy person who is happy with like small things, then again, like you guys said earlier, it wouldn't, they wouldn't necessarily need all of those things. And I also feel like, after a certain amount of, like if someone is so rich that they could literally buy anything in the world, then the money sort of loses its meaning. At least that's how I see it. And that's potentially why, like so many people, like so many famous people, end up ending their lives because, again, it's not enough what they're doing. I also wanted to touch base on what Sir Hale said earlier about the experiences, because I'm a key account and marketing manager for some of the luxury hotels and hotel chains in Europe. So even for us, like for the past, I would say, few years already, like some of the main marketing points for a while now has been highlighting the experiences that people can get with their money instead of just the rooms and the hotel services. So whether it was like a scuba diving or some husky ride, that's like, even in terms of marketing, that's something that a lot of companies are trying to do. So I would say it's more about the experiences and different memories that you can get that initially make people happy, and those ones there rarely have anything to do with money. But yeah, that was my little share. Sorry for the rant, and I'm Susanna. I'm done speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna. And I mean, I kind of touched on that earlier, which is really important because money will buy temporary happiness. Sohail's here. I mean, there's a number of people here that own supercars, and we've bought them. And if you think about it, for how long are you actually excited? How long are you excited for? I mean, it's great, but then you kind of forget about it. And it's the same with, I don't know, buying the latest iPhone or whatever it is. it is very temporary. And I can relate to this from a travel perspective. I realized if you look at my IG, I've traveled a lot, but the reason I actually traveled a lot, and I didn't even realize till last year, was to escape. I wasn't happy here, so I kept traveling. So I had money to spend, and I was traveling. But instead of really, really enjoying every single moment, it was just an escape. And I was thinking, shit, I don't want to come back. So I had the money to escape, but the happiness wasn't there. So it really is, I think, getting that happiness sorted out first, being fulfilled, and serving, because you really do feel happy when you serve. We've done rooms like this, whenever we help people, whether it's from a spiritual level or from a business level, there's a feel-good factor. Hormones get released, and we all have the same thing. When we help people, we feel better, we feel good. Jeff, so you unmute. Let's pop over to you. And what are your thoughts on
Vishal,
this?
we're moving over.
We're doing that now?
Come on. This is Jeff the Happy Birthday, man. I was waiting patiently.
Jeff, I'll
be really quick.
Have one word, and then we move over. And I think, Samit, we're going to continue this on later on as well, aren't we?
Yeah, we're gonna restart it again. So
Yeah. So go on, Jeff, and then we'll move over to the other room, which will be amazing, and then we'll kick one of these off later on too.
Awesome. Yeah, so really quick in closing, and I think everybody knows this, and if you don't, you kind of know already. If we're ever depressed or down, whatever helps anybody is helping other people, right? That's what's great about this app. And to help people at the most valuable way until it changes is anybody would want to have the money to help somebody else out in need, right? Philanthropy is something I strive and I will become one day, because I want to know, like my dad just lost his job recently, and I'm at least in a position where I can bring him on payroll, do something like that right now. My dad didn't take it. He's one of those guys who, would be a greeter at Walmart on that level because of he didn't take the necessary risk to get to this level. What the thing is service always wins, but you can help more people with the more money you have. So, and I think things is the hardest way to really just not quantify it. Like me and Vishal, you show me certain cars that one day I'll buy a supercar. Right now I don't have all that stuff, because I think really what it is it's more just it's really just providing the help to people. When you are in anything that you need in life, and the greatest way to help someone is with money. 100%. I will be that person who can pick anybody in need and do it. I still do it today. I did it with my property management, my real estate. I gave them $20 to go out to eat, because I already know, and I have so much confidence in myself and where I'm going, that I'll be able to do that tenfold going forward, right? And helping other people on an economic plan until it changes and everything, money is extremely important. You got to focus in it. You got to provide a service and a value. And where businesses do well is when they provide a service that truly helps people. So it's not things. It's not anything. Those are all nice. Those all come eventually when you get smart at what you're actually doing. But really, the significance is what we're all chasing, and you get significance from really having the feeling. I've said it before. I saw a homeless guy take off his coat and put it on another homeless guy, and just to help him, and saw a smile on his face. He was happy for that moment. I was walking in to do door-to-door for Solar years ago, and then I saw a multimillionaire come out of his day when he's stressful and give a word to me and talk to me, and I saw how happy he was there, and he got significance because the impact he made in my life, right? Because in the same key was helping other people, and the greatest way to help people is with money. So, it's one of the greatest ways. There's 5 different ways, but that's the way we can all do it. So I do believe they both connect, and I don't believe it's ever in things. That's why I'm talking to you from an iPhone, 6? I don't even know. This is an 8. I don't have the 11 right now, right? Because my whole thing is I want to document the journey. I don't need the nice newest things. I just need what it is to really get the job done, to go help other people. And when you do it from that way in service, you pour your soul into everything, people can feel that, and then that's what changes the world and then passes on. So sorry, I totally messed it up, Sam and Vishal, but thank you guys for letting me share.
I think what you said was actually really important. It is really about helping others. And you mentioned about using money for it. I actually want to, and Sam, I know he's probably thinking, damn it, Vishal, stop talking. I actually really want to help people with money, but I actually want to go somewhere and use my hands and literally build something for them. I don't know why, I just have this urge. I know I can throw money at it, but I want to actually go and just really...
That comes from... Yeah, but that comes from a wrong... you getting your hands dirty is surely just coming from a selfish perspective, no? Because like if you could put your mind to it, all your resources. But I get what you're saying.
That I won't. I never said that I won't put money, and I do. Right, I contribute to charities, and I want to build a shelter. I want to build a school. There are all these things that I want to do for sure. But I also want to do something as well. Yeah, maybe it is a bit for myself. But again, there's still something good coming out of it. But also, I want to see these people's faces. I want to meet them. I don't just want to. If I can send a check, that's great. I'm never going to see their face. I want to meet them. I want to get to know them.
Yeah, I think.
Do you know what I mean?
And we can continue later on today. What we're going to do is we are moving over into another room. It's the interview with who is the face of the ClubHouse app currently. So we are moving. Follow myself, follow Sohel, and press that bell icon Debbie. Soon as we move across, you'll get pinged. So we're going to shut this room down. We'll be back in a couple of hours with probably the same title. So, for everyone that loved the conversation, jump in.